Hey Cynthia, how's everything going?
Great, thank
Nice to finally meet you. Thank you for taking interest in learning more about Ahead College Preparatory. I'm really excited to share the work we're going to be starting in a few short months, and I wanted to meet with you to really do the following: just get to know more about you as a professional here working in education in Los Angeles, but also to share more in detail about the work that's taking place and the groundwork that we're laying out for Ahead to launch in the fall of 2018. And then from there, I want to tell you more about the specific work that we're doing, which entails looking for board candidates to create a governing body that's going to ensure that the school is running to its full potential.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
So tell me more about yourself.
Sure. So I'm a college counselor. I've been a college counselor for 10 years in LAUSD. I love what I do, and I really enjoy working with students and helping them go to college.
Yeah, and I saw that you've been a counselor there for almost a full decade, and I'm curious to hear about your experience there at Hillcrest.
I mean, when I first started out, the typical thing, I didn't have very much experience, but over the years I've really learned what it takes to really prepare a student for college. Every student is different, as you know, and there's a lot of differentiation when it comes to helping students get to college. And you have some students who know exactly where they want to go, and then you have students who have no clue and who have no support at home. And so I've really had an amazing experience working with them and working with the administration. I think that I work at a public school. I don't know if I made that clear at the beginning, but I think my administration is really supportive of my work, and I'm just incredibly happy.
Yeah, and I'm very curious. What do you know about charter schools, and what's your definition of one?
I don't really know much about charter schools. I know that there's quite a bit of tension because they're in Los Angeles, but that's really all I know.
Yeah, so let me clear up a few things. So Los Angeles is home to a ton of charter schools. It's, I believe, if not the first and the second largest school district that has the most charter enrollment, the highest charter enrollment. And so charter schools are tuition free, so they're just like any other public school. And we take in students from all backgrounds and all walks of life. And so we have a lottery system which kids and families apply to, and if we have, for example, 100 seats and 101 students apply, then we automatically, by law, have to have a lottery to see which students we're going to admit. So we don't choose our students. We don't select our students. We don't choose our students. We educate whoever wants to come to our charter school, to Ahead Public Schools, to Ahead College Prep. And I think what's very important, what's very fascinating about that is we have the opportunity to do things at our school, like smaller class sizes and the differentiation that you were speaking about, because we're going to focus heavily on math and literacy to close these gaps. And
But it's only a small set of students, right?
What do you mean by a small set?
Charters, from what I hear, you don't serve all kids. Like, you select a small number of kids to attend your school. Is that correct?
So yeah, and I'm curious to hear more about that. But we have similar demographics to the rest of LAUSD. So for example, anywhere from 15 to 20% of our population is identified as special education or special needs. And if you look at the demographics of the charter schools in East Los Angeles, and if you look at what will be the demographics at Ahead College Preparatory as well, it's going to be anywhere from 90+% Hispanic in the demographics in East Los Angeles, and also upwards of 90% students who identify as low income as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really am curious if you could describe a powerful school, what does it look like?
Powerful school? You mean like a successful school?
Yeah, a successful school, so a school that is preparing all students for college. And I respect that you are in the field of getting students ready for their college applications and heading into the fall of their freshman year. Let's scale back to kindergarten, for example. What does a powerful school look like?
I mean, in my experience, the leader has a lot to do with the culture that's established at the school. And I think that a successful school has a very caring and articulate and convincing a leader who knows the community that we're serving, and works with the faculty and staff to help everyone understand the mission as well as they do, and all work together in the form of a team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I think you hit a lot of points that we are going to implement at Ahead College Prep. And I just want to go ahead and tell you about the work that we're going to be doing and the model of our school. So we will be opening in East Los Angeles later for the fall of 2018. And what's going to be particularly powerful about our school, Ahead stands for Achieving Higher Education and Dreams. And our mission is simple, to get every single one of our students to college. And aside from getting them to college, throughout the process, we really want them to take ownership of a specific or collective dream that they have for themselves and the community. So as kids go through our K through 12, or sorry, K through 8 program, we want them to really take ownership of what is it that they want to do with their education. How can they give back to their community through public service and through action? And so that's one thing that's really powerful about our program.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess, given that I'm coming from the high school setting, how are you going to ensure that your students are graduating if you leave them at 8th grade? And,
Yeah, that's a very powerful question.
How does that dream fulfill itself when you lose them at the end of it?
That is a great question. So what we like to think of is we don't lose the kids. So for our flagship class that graduates as 8th graders and gets promoted onto their freshman year of high school, our goal is to send them to the most competitive high schools in the city, which will then prepare them for admittance into the most selective colleges in the entire country, right? And so when they go off to high school, we are going to track them. We're going to have an alumni team that is going to work with the families and with the students to ensure that they have everything that they need at their high school with those 4 years, that they have help in the application process, as you know, like with some of our private high schools or our magnet high schools, that they have the tests in place, that they have the right scores, that they have the tutoring, that they have the differentiated support to make sure that every single one of them gets to a high school that's going to suit their needs.
Okay, that's helpful. So you're going to track them.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to track them, and it doesn't stop at high school. We're going to follow them all the way till they go to college. But what's very interesting about our model is we have chosen to focus on K through 8 because we are going to not only focus on math and literacy up front, but our goal is to close all math and literacy gaps by the 3rd grade. So a lot of students are coming in way beyond grade level, behind grade level. So we have, for example, students here in the city who are 3rd graders that aren't even reading at a 1st grade level, or 6th graders who are reading at a 3rd grade level.
So I guess I'm still trying to understand the alumni tracking. So how will you fund that? I guess my perspective is from a public school setting, and like funds are limited. So how does it work with charter schools? Like, are you just able to come up with an alumni team and that's that? Like, you have private funds? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the majority of our funding is going to come from the same way that traditional public schools are funded, which is at the state and the local level. So we are going to receive approximately $9,000 to $10,000 per student that enrolls in our school. And then that money is obviously going to be amplified when we have more students at our school. So the first year we have kindergarten, the second year we have kindergarten and first, and so on and so on, right? But what we're also going to do is we're going to aggressively approach private donors as well, people who are invested in the interests of their organizations, of their companies, of the community. Because the fact is that we are educating the future workforce. We are educating the future workforce of this company, of this organization, we're educating the future citizens of this community. So yes, we are going to go and solicit additional funds on top of public schools, local and state dollars, which will then fund these initiatives to make sure that we track and get every single kid to graduate from college. And so I guess one thing that I maybe failed to mention is a little bit about myself and why I'm interested in this work. I myself was a migrant farm worker growing up. Are you familiar with migrant farm working?
I mean, I know some of our kids they come from migrant farm working families. I have a vague idea.
So growing up, I really had no choice other than to work. My father was a public school teacher and did that for the majority of his life, for 20 years before he passed away. And he was committed to students in education, which is where I get my passion from. But as it relates to migrant farm working, because he was an uncertified teacher, he unfortunately was relegated to a substitute's wages. So even though he was working full time, he was only earning about $22,000 a year for a family of 6. So you can imagine how tough that was to financially spread out throughout an entire year. So to make up for that money, we would go every summer to North Dakota and Minnesota, and we would manually work in the fields. So as early as the age of 6, I was out there working with family members and giving people water and also tending to the weeds that are growing out in these fields. It's called cleaning, really what it is, the work that we were doing to ensure that farmers don't use pesticides, for example, but they employ manual labor to get rid of the weeds that are growing in their produce.
So you said your dad was a teacher.
Yeah, so he was a teacher, and he was passionate about what he did, but unfortunately had to work additionally to provide for the family. And it was through this manual labor that I really had a strong passion and commitment to go to college myself. My father never graduated, and I would be the first in the family to receive a college degree. So I made it my mission because I knew that education was the ticket out of poverty.
Did you go to a charter school?
I did not, actually. I was raised in a rural town in Texas, and so given the population, given the size, it is not financially feasible for 2 schools to operate at the same time. So there's only one middle school, one high school, one elementary school.
Did you like your public school?
I really enjoyed my public school, and when I think about what made it particularly impactful is when I was in the classrooms of teachers who were passionate about what they did, who were knowledgeable about what they were doing, who had routines in place, who had a strong culture in their classrooms each and every day that showed students this is meaningful, this is purposeful, and this is important. And when it was in these classes that I received these messages, I felt good about myself. I was getting feedback, and I felt that, you know what, education is important because these individuals are making it known, and they're communicating it every single day. So from the fields, as a senior in high school, I applied to MIT, and when I talk about education as a ticket out of poverty, when I got to MIT and when I graduated from MIT, that really was my golden ticket out. And this is something that I want other families and other students to experience, because not only did graduate...
Do you think that they can experience this in the public school system, in the traditional public school system? Because I mean, you went to a public school and you ended up at MIT, which is, phenomenal institution. So I guess I'm having a hard time understanding why you're not choosing to be the principal of a public school instead. I mean, you're a product of the public school system, and you went to MIT. Why not be a principal at a school where you can serve more kids?
Yeah, I love this question. So the reason why I've chosen to be a principal of the charter school, there are a lot of great things happening in LAUSD. Charter schools, public schools, there's a lot of great things happening for a lot of kids. When I look at East Los Angeles, it is very clear that there's an urgent need for more quality schools. So I agree with you. I could be a principal, a one-day principal of a large traditional public. there's an immediate need right now given the long wait list in East Los Angeles. Thousands of parents have demonstrated an urgent need for more schools, and these wait lists are thousands of students long. And these students are waiting, if they don't get into a school of their choice, are essentially waiting every year and may or may not be successful in their academic environments. And so I recognize that I have, and we as a school have, immediate control over the destiny of our kids. And that is why we want to create our own school. That is why we want to take advantage of the autonomy that comes with creating a charter school, to ensure that we're providing all the things necessary for every kid to make their way to and through college.
Okay. But I guess I'm still curious to know why charter, and I understand that there's a wait list, but why not a magnet school? That's a district model, right? That allows for flexibility. Because from what I hear in the news, there's some side interest to charter schools. Like, I'm hearing in the news that there's money to be made out of charter schools, and I guess I just don't really, I don't know how I feel about charter schools. Like, I know magnet schools are part of the district, but I don't know, I feel a little skeptical about charter schools.
Yeah, so I want to backtrack a bit more. So you bring up a lot of great points, and I'm glad that we're having this discussion. So the fact is, and the reality is, in Los Angeles and in the country, there are some successful charter schools and there are some unsuccessful charter schools. Different research, highlights the impact of either or, right? And the reason why I've chosen to do this work, specifically why I've chosen to do it with Building Excellent Schools, I am a Building Excellent Schools fellow, which means that I'm being trained by an organization that specifically recruits leaders to build high capacity schools, high quality schools. And so through this year, for example, next week, I'm going to be touring some schools in DC, and we're going to go and look at the best practices of the top performing charter schools in the entire country. So we aren't going to just sit down and pull some ideas from dinner, but we are actually going to create schools that are proven in best practices from schools in DC, from schools in Tennessee, from schools in Boston, from schools here in Los Angeles as well. We are going to take proven models over the course of these next few months to ensure that we build a school that works, that adults in the system are getting it right from day one. And that is why I've chosen to not only create a charter school with the team, but also create it with the help of Building Excellent Schools through this year-long fellowship.
So you asked me at the beginning of our conversation what I thought was a successful school, and you just kind of alluded to the adults getting it right. What does that mean for you?
So I think of a few things, and Building Excellent Schools has a philosophy around the 10 principles of a successful school, the non-negotiable successful schools. And I would actually want to kind of dive in and talk about them. So if we look here, the first principle of a successful school is an unwavering belief that all students can make it to and through college. And that is what I reinforce again and again, because I've seen the personal impact firsthand of what college can do for a family, especially a family living in poverty. So that's principle one. Another principle here is a college-bound mission that is going to be supported by all. And what I mean by all is, it doesn't just stop at the teachers. It doesn't just stop at the leader. It extends and bleeds into the families. It bleeds into the community. It's the tutors who are coming in to work with us. It's everybody who has interaction with our students having a very clear belief that this is possible for all of them, and at a very high level too. And then if we look at a few of the other principles as well, we have things like extended time. We have a strong belief that we can't just simply go off of, for example, an 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. School model where we're going to school less than 180 days a year. We need to make sure that kids are coming in at as early as 7:30, and if they need help, that they're staying as late as 4:30 to 5 p.m. with the help necessary to close all these gaps possible.
But what about your teachers? I mean, that's a really long day. How are you? I don't know, in my experience, like, teachers want to go home after school. Like, they're burnt out by, come February. Like, I don't know, talk more about that.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. So we are going to look at best practices from schools across the country, as I suggested, and one of the models that we're going to look into specifically is a professional development model and a professional learning community model. So what this means is teachers are going to be working together. They're not going to be working in silos as isolated islands in their classrooms. They're going to be able to work together, to collaborate in order to ensure that not only is effective curriculum being produced, but it doesn't just fall on one person's shoulders. So like you said, you have tutoring, you have morning duty, maybe you have after school duty, maybe you have more curriculum to do, and then you have grading, and maybe you're grading some essays on top of that. I agree that a lot of this work could be daunting quickly, but we're going to create models in place where the work is shared, the work is effective, and the work is meaningful, so that I agree with you, adults aren't being burnt out and burning the candlestick at both ends.
So this is a question that's not really on the principles here, but from what I've heard, like I said, I don't know too much about charters, but I know what people are saying about them, like that they really inconvenience the schools whenever they have to, I guess, co-locate or something like that, and they have to share spaces. Like, is that what your school is going to do?
Co-location within a school? So that is a great question. We are going to secure a facility in the next month or two. So I can't speak specifically exactly where we're going to be located, but that is something that could actually be very feasible, where we have to share a facility with the traditional public. And if that is the case, we're going to have strong communication with the school to ensure that we are sharing the gym, the cafetorium, and other classrooms without interfering or conflicting with their work, or vice versa with our work.
How do you see yourself being, how do you feel about kids attending different schools in the same building? And what if that's other schools not very successful?
So the bottom line here is, if all adults in the classroom, in the building, in the hallway believe that each and every one of these students can perform at high levels and they can get to college, it doesn't matter where we are, it doesn't matter which city, it doesn't matter which school, it doesn't matter which building, it doesn't matter which street or zip code. When adults are committed to each and every kid, and when they are organized, when they are prepared, when they have a method that using data can tell them where are the students, where is Raul, for example. Raul came in at a first grade level, and now he's performing at a fourth grade level, and this is what we've done to track it. What can work for Juanita, what can work for Saud. So when adults in the system get it right, and when the leadership is strong, and when the culture is there, and students buy into it, and even better, when they start creating it themselves, then it doesn't matter where we're located, because students are going to perform.
How old are you? You look really young.
Yes, I'm 27 years old.
Oh wow, that's really young.
So I've really been passionate about this work, and I know that I glazed over my transition from migrant farm working and coming from a rural town in Texas to MIT. When I was at MIT, first thing that I did within my first month as a freshman there, I started looking out into mentoring programs that I could work with, that I could go in and really immerse myself in the community, because I know the value of mentorship, because I've had strong mentors in my own life, and I wanted to give back. And one place in particular that I ended up working at is Roxbury Preparatory Charter School in Roxbury, Massachusetts. And this was the first time that I had ever been exposed to a charter school. Yeah. And here I am, 18 years old, it's August, and I'm working with brilliant students who academically are behind and really need an additional push from either a mentor or somebody who can talk to them maybe in a different way that they're...
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
Because I'm really curious. How many years have you been in education?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been in education, so I personally will date it back to the time that I stepped in Rex Roxbury Preparatory Charter School, because from the time that I stepped in the school building, I was already taking in ideas.
And how many years is that?
So if you look back from the age of 18 to now, 9 years. So it was 9 years working in strong mentorship and in close relationship with the charter school. In addition,
have you been a principal before?
I just transitioned over here to California from Texas, where I worked with one of the most successful charter organizations in the country. So Ideal Public Schools recently just received the Broad Prize, being
Wow.
labeled from the Broad Foundation as the highest performing charter network in the entire country, and it's also one of the fastest growing. So for the last 2 years, I was an assistant principal there, and 2 years before that, through Teach for America, I was also a core member and teaching algebra and geometry. And if I could highlight some of the results that I had when I was in the algebra classroom, I taught. I was the only algebra teacher of these 120 students, and we were the highest. We were the school with the highest poverty rate for the 120 students that we had. And at the end of the school year, on their algebra end of course assessment, the students performed with a 98% passing rate.
Wow.
And that was.
So you were a great math teacher.
I loved it.
So why didn't you stay a teacher?
So,
we need teachers. Good teachers.
I agree with you. I once heard this philosophy, and I wish I could tell you who I heard it from, but I heard a philosophy that the principal at a school needs to be the best teacher in the building. And that is one reason why I've chosen to go into school leadership, because I want to be the role model, I want to be the exemplar for all teachers in the school building. And I recognize that some teachers are going to come in either right out of college or maybe with a year or two under their belt, and I want to be the coach and the mentor that allows them to flourish and fall in love with education, fall in love with teaching, so that they commit to a decade or two or three, and that way kids and families coming into a head college prep always have a high quality teacher in front of them.
So I used to be a teacher, and I left because I wasn't making enough money. And somebody once asked me if I was paid, more than $100,000 to be a teacher, would I still be a teacher? And the answer is yes, right? Do you feel that way? Do you feel like if you got paid more, you would be in the classroom?
So would I stay in the classroom if teaching was a higher paying profession?
I know in some countries, like in Asia, teaching and faculty positions are really high paying, and they're very valued. And I just wonder why we lose so many teachers to higher paying positions, to leadership positions. And I guess I have a hidden agenda. I want to know how you're going to keep teachers in the classroom if you yourself left.
So, I think that's a great point. I don't consider myself ever leaving the classroom, because I will, I'll pretty much live in the classroom, in multiple classrooms. So as a school leader, one thing that I will strive to do is get into as many classrooms as possible every single day. I want to go in and I'm going to roll up my sleeves and get in there as well. I want to talk to kids. I want to see what they're learning. I want to hear what they're learning. I want to visually see their thinking, and I want to work with teachers. I want to improve their craft. So I in fact didn't leave the classroom, but I'm approaching it from a different perspective now. As for your question about salary, as a question about income, in the country, I do think that teachers are on average underpaid for their work. And one thing that we are going to explore with is to incentivize high quality teachers, high quality individuals to come to our school, is to look at what the national average salary is here in Los Angeles and beat it. And make sure that people are coming to us, because income is something that is a reality. People need to put food on the table. People need to cover their rent. I completely agree. And so we will explore with models to make sure that teachers have the best benefits possible, in addition to a competitive salary that will incentivize them to come and to stay at our school. And that is definitely a great question. And you're asking a lot of great questions, and so let me tell you a little bit about the work that I'm going to do moving forward. So a head college prep will require a board to oversee its work, a governing body, very much like LAUSD has a school board, right? We're going to have our own school board for Head College Prep, and what I'm doing in the community is reaching out to individuals like yourself to see if you would be interested in learning more about what this work entails. And so to backtrack a bit, the board needs to be comprised of different individuals with different strengths. So somebody who can represent a skill set in finance, another who can represent their skill set in law, somebody who has a background in education, somebody has a background in facilities, marketing, human resources. And we're getting these individuals together who have really bought into the idea of college for all, and that is going to be the governing body that will then hold the school and the school leader accountable for the results that we're promising to the community. Is this something you would like to hear more about?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I need to have many more conversations with you about what you're doing because
Yeah.
it sounds great, but you're young and I don't know, this idea of experimenting on children, it's not something that I really agree with.
Well, so I'll tell you what's the deal. What we're not doing is not an experiment at all, but in fact it's proven practices.
But it's a new school.
It is a new school, but it's a new school that is grounded in proven work. So I want to give you an example. Excel Academy in Boston, they operated as a single charter school before they expanded for 11 years. And at this school, they were serving the same demographics as we're going to serve in East Los Angeles, the same levels of poverty, the same levels of special needs children. But what they were able to do is achieve the highest results in Boston. And when I say the highest results, 8th graders at their school, 100% of them were either getting passing or at advanced status on their English exams. And 100%, like, the numbers don't lie. So what we're doing is we're taking these proven practices from schools like Excel, where if you look at their math classes as well, if you look at their math results, their 5th graders, their 8th graders, their 3rd graders, they're performing at incredibly high levels. And so we want to take those models and bring them to Los Angeles, and it won't be an experiment at all. But in fact, we're going to make sure that from day one that we have this model right, because our kids are counting on us.
Are there certain students that do better at charter schools, or do you think that charter schools are great for all kids?
I think regardless of the school that you're talking about, traditional, charter, private, magnet, Catholic, kids are going to perform well when adults believe in them, when adults are prepared, when adults are organized, and when there is a strategic model in place that is going to support each and every one of them.
So you think that's true even if the size, so I guess I see a lot of caring professionals in LAUSD, but they're in schools that have a lot of students, and I don't know, it sounds easier to do when you have a small subsection of the population. And I read this article that charters cherry pick their students, and it sounds like, I don't know, like it's easier that way to educate kids that are already doing pretty well. And so, I don't know, how do you feel about that?
So yeah, to your point of cherry picking, we won't cherry pick the students because we are going to conduct a randomized lottery process. So if we have 100 seats open and 150 apply, then we don't know which 50 are not going to get in. And these levels are going to be much higher, so I'm actually understating them. But if we have 100 seats open, we predict anywhere from hundreds, if not over 1,000, to apply for these selective competitive seats. But because it's randomized, we won't know who we're going to be getting. But the demographics, the statistics of the students that are incoming are going to be very reflective of LAUSD on average. And you did bring up something else that I wanted to discuss, and you said, why go into something that's going to be easier given the class sizes? So arguably, so I agree, maybe on average the class size will be smaller, but I can attest that it won't be easy work. This is going to be meticulous, difficult but very enriching and rewarding work for all educators on our campus. So we aren't just going in and just showing kids how to do something, how to multiply, how to add, but what's a very involved process. We're going to get in there and see the visual thinking of all of our students, and that is not easy work. It's something that teachers are going to be trained in, that they're going to employ every day, so that every kid is getting the differentiated help they need, and that we're strategically through data targeting where the gaps lie. And so even though we may have a smaller class size, I can assure you that it's going to be very tough and challenging work, but rewarding as well. So I'll tell you what, Cynthia, I do know that we are going a bit over on time, on which I promised for a 30-minute meeting. But I would like to meet with you again, where we can hopefully discuss more about what the responsibilities of a board member are, and to see if you have any interest as well.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with everything you've brought to the table. I know it's not easy to interview with me probably, or talk to me. I have a lot of questions, but I think you have a really great school in mind, and I'm super excited to learn more about it.
Great. So when can we schedule a follow-up conversation?
Well, I have to get back to my computer.
Okay.
And look at my calendar, but maybe within the next 2 weeks.
Great. So I'll tell you what, I'll shoot you an email today, later tonight, and see when we can coordinate a meeting for next week again.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thank
Cynthia.
you.